Jai Hind, everybody. Borders are something which we have been hearing, but this concept actually has evolved over a period of time. It is not that that memorial the current form has been existing. There were initially some kind of loose arrangements, not up to the Indian context in general. Then came the concept of frontiers. Then now it is more formal in form of borders, which has delineated, demarked, and then also organized. Since today's talk is related to Indian context, so you all are well aware that we inherited a kind of border which had extreme challenges, and that was drawn in form of that frame in a hurried manner. If you read history, it's surprised as to how a human being in that line can really draw a line between two portions. But the basic argument at that point of time was based on the majority population, and that was the basis of religion. So they bifurcated Punjab in the western portion, part of Punjab going to Pakistan, part of Punjab continuing in India. Similarly, same thing happened on eastern border, wherein the Bangladesh was also divided in two portions. And so currently Bangladesh was linked by east Pakistan, currently Pakistan was thereafter also over a period of time, number of developments have taken place. At some places we have been successful to resolve borders. Some places they are still continuing in a similar manner. Like if you see on the Pakistan border in Jammu and Kashmir region, not in the entire state, but once you go in the hill area, and northwards. So initially the concept was of ceasefire line, which came about after the 47-48 war terminated on 5th January 1948. 65 again there were no losses and gains on both sides. Then in the national agreement, status was received in the ceasefire line. In 1971, when East Pakistan got converted to Bangladesh. So during Shimla agreement, what happened that what were the losses and wins in the IB sector on the Western Front, they were returned by both the countries. But what were the gains and losses across the CFL, they were retained by the countries concerned. And also from those times, the CFL came to be known as lineup. And the current quagmire which is happening on the Western border is well known to you. A similar thing, of course, albeit in a different manner, existing with Bangladesh. Relationship have been initially at least fluctuating, but in the time when a woman league has been in power, it has been reasonably good. And after persistent efforts, we have been able to resolve this so-called border issue where the ships and enclaves from both sides were transferred. Area-wise, we gave more than what we got from Bangladesh, but largely, except I think in Mega Corridor and other issues will be solved. Of course, the current profile of Bangladesh, which is emerging, and the kind of pressure which is there for immigrants, people crossing who are settling down in the border states of Assam and elsewhere. And now, the people are reached to hinterland in there is no state where you will not find the Bangladesh. Now the Myanmaris have joined there, the Rohingyas have joined there. Nepal and Bhutan, in any case, we have the open borders. So there was huge influx of challenge as far as our borders are concerned. We couldn't have found a better person than our current speaker, Mr. Sanjiv Krishan Sood, whom I met by chance long time back. I was thrilled to say, because he is part of a think tank known as
Borderman.
Borderman. And basically, they look at all the issues related to borders. Some of you would have been we conducted a closed door session on Bangladesh, basically looking at the turmoil and the way. So we got a lot of valuable information from him, which we factored into before. So today he is here to enlighten us on this issue. So with that note, I'll request Manish to introduce the speaker in a formal manner, and then I'll request you to commence it.
Good morning, everyone. It is honor to introduce Mr. Sanjiv Krishan Sood, former Additional Director General, Border Security Force, is a distinguished former officer of the Border Security Force, having rendered over 38 years of meritorious service across various leadership, command, supervisory, and policy-making roles. He retired in 2015 as an Additional Director General of BSF. Throughout his career, he served extensively along the India-Pakistan and India-Bangladesh borders, leading large formations in both operational and peacetime deployments. Post-retirement, Mr. Sood has remained actively engaged in mentoring aspirants for the civil services and Central Armed Police Forces. He serves on the panels of several reputed institutions contributing to the assessment and development of leadership qualities in young candidates aspiring to join India's elite services. He is affiliated with several think tanks as a security analyst, focusing on police and bureaucratic reforms, border security and management, and the roles of security forces in India's broader security architecture. He also comments regularly on issues of national importance, politics, and public policy, often incorporating elements of wit and humor in his analysis. An accomplished writer, Mr. Sood has authored more than 200 articles and papers in leading newspapers, strategic journals, and digital platforms. He is a sought-after speaker at seminars and a regular contributor to a television discussions on national security matters. He is also the author of the well-regarded book BSF, The Eyes and Ears of India, which is now featured in leading institutional libraries across the globe. Thank you.
Hello, sir.
Jai Hind. Thank you, CENJOWS, and thank you, all of you, to have come here to listen to this often not considered a very important aspect of national security. My personal view is that border security and internal security are intricately linked to each other. If we have secure borders, if we are able to prevent militants and other bad elements from entering our India, our internal situation will be much better, as has been exemplified by controlling the Punjab militancy, and as is still persisting in J&K and many parts of Northeast. Lord Curzon in 1907, which is almost 118 years ago, in Ramani's lectures, he chose the topic of borders as a topic for his talk there. And he said that 3 out of the 4 agreements between nations relate to borders. However, hardly any material is available in open domain about borders. So in that context, it is heartening to note that an elite institution like CENJOWS also is talking of borders. There has been some progress since 118 years ago, but then we have a lot of way to cover. India-Bangladesh borders, as was said by the DG, came about in 1947, and as has been said by Mr. Ratcliffe, that province of Bengal offers few, if any, satisfactory natural boundaries, and its development has been on the lines that do not well accord with division by contiguous majority areas of Muslims and even majority. So Sylhet, which probably was majority Hindu, instead of coming to India, went to Bangladesh. Similarly, Malda area, which in fact flew the Pakistani flag for 3 days till August 18, finally came to India, and so on and so forth. So, and the border is totally meandering, totally unnatural, except in parts of Meghalaya, where the hills are with India and the plain part portion is with Bangladesh. Except there, it is all unnatural border crossing, crisscrossing through villages, farmhouses. Farmhouses. So we had the situation of something called adverse possession, if you all are aware. A portion of land across the international border, across the not delineated international border, which is in possession of Indian farmers. And similarly, so we had those called adverse possession. We had something called enclaves, which were a legacy of pre-partition days when the Maharaja of Kuch Bihar and Maharaja of Rangpur visited each other and decided to say, gift, ye rakba hum aapko de rahe hain. Another story is that they used to play an ancient game called chopper, and whosoever wins gifts. So that particular situation came. So long as it was combined British India, there was no problem. But when Rangpur went to Bangladesh and Kuch Bihar came to India, we had about 111 enclaves in Bangladesh where our writ didn't run. Similarly, they had 51 enclaves in India where their writ didn't run. And the residents of these enclaves were had no nationalities. They couldn't legally come out of their enclave to get education and all. They had lots of problems. Unofficially, they came. Unofficially, they came for medicines. They came for education, but officially, they couldn't have done. And it also facilitated criminals to go and hide because Indian law enforcing agencies legally couldn't enter those enclaves. So those were the situation prevailing in those areas. So naturalness did not exist while creating those borders with Bangladesh, so with Pakistan. At many places, the border along Bangladesh passes through villages. In couple of instances, in my command of North Bengal, I found a border pillar located in the courtyard of a house. So technically, the bedroom is in India, the living room is in Bangladesh. What they have something called pukur, fish ponds. So a Bangladeshi, an Indian house will have its pukur in Bangladesh. So that is, there's a place near Hilli where the track divides the two villages. And the mosque located on the Bangladesh side opens towards India, and Indians also use it. So it's a very typical situation, and these situations pose a lot of challenges for border guarding. These are some of those facts. I'm sure the presentation would be shared with them, and these will be available to you. So we have the entire border fenced, except for the portion which cannot be fenced, and about 300 odd kilometers, which we have not been able to fence because of several reasons. Number one, as per the guidelines for the border guarding authorities, no defense-related structure can come up within 150 yards of the international border on either side. Neither they can create it, nor we can create it. So, but in certain cases, it is not feasible to construct the fence at a distance. So we have to go close. Till the regime change in August, we had been interacting with them, requesting them, carrying out joint surveys, and at many places, the fence has come up at 0.9 or within 3-4 yards of the international border. But now, after the regime change on 5th of August, was it? 5th of August last year, the official stance of Bangladesh has hardened, and we are facing problems. And there's another reason that the population density of Bengal, West Bengal, and other states in the northeast, except Mizoram, and perhaps all right, except Mizoram, which is bordering. The population density, especially in Bengal, is double that of India, rest of India. So there hardly is any land available. And so a lot of difficulties are found, are there in acquiring land. And the border guarding operations, which are carried out by BSF, are done by establishing BOPs. The government yardstick is to establish a BOP at 3.5 kilometers each, but then on ground it varies. Those are basically the bases from where we carry out our patrolling and ambush operations and other border domination operations. And we have second generation technical devices in the shape of night vision devices, goggles, handheld thermal images, etc. An experiment of about 64 kilometers length has been carried out in Brahmaputra span, the width of Brahmaputra river, called Comprehensive Integrated Border Management Systems. It has been tried. However, the system being very costly, it has not been possible to replicate it throughout the riverine water systems along the eastern border. And so we are looking for indigenization of those systems. So once that comes up, the domination of riverine borders would increase. We have a water wing, BSF has a water wing which dominates the riverine areas, especially of Brahmaputra and the Bay of Bengal and other small riverine areas along those areas. Then land boundary agreement has been signed in 2015. It was long pending because Indian Parliament was not able to ratify it. Bangladeshis didn't have any need to. Indian Parliament, Indian system has something that not an inch of land can be ceded to any other country. So if the land, since the exchange of enclaves and exchange of adverse possessions required exchange of land, therefore it had to be ratified by the parliament. It couldn't be ratified earlier because of various political reasons. Finally, it was ratified, and in 2015 it was signed. And enclaves and adverse possession, those problems have disappeared now. The border is now being demarcated because the adverse possession around 36 kilometers of the borders in Jalpaiguri, Kuch Bihar area was not demarcated, and about 6 kilometers odd in Assam was not demarcated. So this is now being demarcated. Teen Biga corridor, however, continues to be with Bangladesh on perpetual lease. Dahagra Mangrapota is a large enclave in Kuch Bihar district, more than 26 odd square kilometers area. And this corridor has been leased to Bangladesh in perpetuity to enable them to go from the mainland to the corridor, to the enclave and go back. So till 92, it was only during daytime. After that, after 2011, the crossing can be throughout the day, 24 hours of the day. Besides that, there are 164 villages which are located across the fence. And this is a difficult, difficulty for the border guarding forces, because it is not possible to locate permanent border outposts in those villages. And therefore, these villages at times are exploited by the Bangladeshis to cross over. Besides exploitation of the riverine area for crossing over, cattle smuggling is rampant. Although in last couple of years, the quantum of cattle smuggling has come down drastically. Basically, now the cattle is being transported through a corridor created in Nepal. This is what is being said. And another reason is that because of the lot of casualties caused because of this problem, the Bangladesh has itself started its own cattle rearing program. Otherwise, their leather industry, their meat industry was totally dependent upon the Indian cattle illegally smuggled. And cattle goes all the way from Rajasthan, Haryana to the border. Nobody stops it en route. And it is the Jawan of BSF stationed at about 100 meters away from the border, who is expected to stop thousands of cattle being pushed by hundreds of criminals armed with sharp weapons. He is expected to stop those cattle from going across. So that is one other difficulty. And because of this, the casualties occurred, and therefore Bangladesh, my memory serves me right, is rated, I think, 5th or 6th most dangerous borders to be in the world. And then illegal migration, of course, is. I'll have next few slides showing data, giving comparative. Illegal migration, of course, is an issue, and figures vary. There are no authentic figures. In one of the replies to a parliament question, the then Minister of State for Home Affairs had stated that from various sources, it is estimated. He was not able to give authentic figures. It is estimated that the number of illegal Bangladeshis in India is approximately 20 million. 2 crore. This is what was stated in a parliament. So this is, as I said, cattle is a major problem, and you can see that cattle smuggling is continuously on the decline for the reasons that I've already mentioned. These are the incidents of firing which keep occurring on the borders. And after the signing of confidence building measures between the two DGs of BSF and DG of Bangladesh border guards in 2011, BSF has adopted something called less lethal. Non-lethal is a misnomer. Less lethal, because even a less lethal weapon can cause casualties. It is not totally non-lethal. So less lethal strategy, and therefore you can see the difference between the lethal firepower used and less lethal firepower used. Prior to that, prior to 2011, it was totally lethal weapons that were being used. So for which we have introduced pump action guns. We have also introduced various kinds of grenades, stun grenades, chili grenades, and so on and so forth. Those have been introduced. This is the number of BD miscreants who were killed. So this is what creates problem. This is what invites human rights allegations against border security force. This is also is a problem for Bangladeshi government. I've been on several visits to Bangladesh, and the first question their journalists ask is, why does your BSF kill border traders? Sorry, cattle traders. They term them as cattle traders. Our response has always been that government of India hasn't allowed cattle trade. It is only smuggling, and BSF has an inherent power. BSF personnel have inherent powers to defend themselves against any lethal attack on them. So this is what creates problem for governments at government level, at the BSF level. This is about the immigration. These are the number we have got. You might see that 25, we have more Bangladeshis going out rather than coming in, the apprehensions. Earlier, it was the other way around, apprehensions of incoming and outgoing. Maybe it is because the regime change and people are going there worried about the welfare of their families, or as was being said a couple of years ago, that Bangladeshi economy was doing much better. Those could perhaps be the reasons for more outgoing Bangladeshis being apprehended by BSF on the borders. And this is the fence breach. Whatever crime occurs, they have to breach the fence. So this is an indicator of the level of crime that happens on the borders. And these are other sundry. So the main items which are smuggled out are something called fancy dill. This is a cough syrup with a lot of alcohol content, and alcohol being banned in Bangladesh, they use it as a supplement for alcohol. Drugs are coming, especially yaba drug, which is a party drug. It is coming mainly from the borders of Mizoram. Heroin also has been seized. And then there's a small portion along West Bengal near Malda called Kaliaganj, which is notorious for smuggling of fake Indian currency notes. So that is where it had come down when the demonetization took place, but it has come back to the same level since then. So, but then the currency notes come from outside. They are not made in Bangladesh. Mostly they are perhaps made in Pakistan and routed through that area. So, having said all this, what are the challenges that we face the BSF faces? Firstly, it is the porosity of the borders, especially the riverine borders. Riverine borders, in spite of the best efforts, and now that this is rainy season, it becomes extremely difficult to control immigration, illegal immigration, and crime from those areas. We have watering, we have deployed what is called floating BOPs, floating border outposts in those areas from where the patrol boats go out. So that is one. And porosity is also due to ethnic similarity between the population of two countries, cultural similarities, language, the physique. You can't differentiate between a Bangladeshi national and an Indian national in those areas. So those are the reasons for the porosity of borders. And of course, those 164 villages that I said are close to the borders, that also leads to the problem. So this is what I have already said. Threat of the fence, difficult to, and the villages which are located ahead of the fence cause another difficulty. Many of them work in the hinterland. And unlike the farming activities in other areas, we cannot control their going and coming in. Farming activities can be controlled. Say we impose a curfew that by so and so time, by last night you do come back. But in their case, if the office closes at 6 o'clock, you can't stop them. So that creates difficulty for the people manning those gates. Another difficulty is that of women going and coming across the fence, because they either are living there in those villages, or they are going out to work in the fields, or to say carry food for their husband or father or son or brother or whatever. So this difficulty has been overcome to an extent by employing, or rather inducting women soldiers in the border security force. We now have about 10,000 BSF lady personnel in our organization, including some supervisory staff in the rank of sub-inspectors and assistant. So that difficulty has been overcome to an extent, but then that creates another human resource management issues, because these ladies are replacement for the men. So ultimately, when their strength goes up to 15% as mandated by the government, 15% would mean what? Around 40,000 for a force like ours, 250,000, more than that. So that's a huge number. So ultimately, other than those less dangerous works, they'll also have to be deployed in other works requiring more skills, requiring which might also face they might also face more dangerous situation in those areas. So one of the reasons for illegal migration is that there are a number of touts operating in those areas, and forged papers are readily available. Say a BSF Jawan manning a gate who is responsible to check the veracity of those papers. He doesn't have any technical gadget available with him to verify whether the Aadhaar is correct or not, or something like that. So that also is a problem, and in many papers, and it is also under discussion in our headquarters, that some kind of special identification paper can be issued to those villages who are living across the border to obviate this problem. And one of the very important challenge to border management is very prolonged thinning out from the border. You see, we have 140 companies presently deployed in Manipur. 140 companies comes to 20 battalions. Seven company battalion is the BSF organization. We have several companies deployed in now in Kashmir for Amarnath Yatra. We had, I was checking with somebody last year, over 50% of the deployed strength of BSF along the eastern borders was withdrawn for almost 3 months for general elections. We had assembly elections, we had 1/3 of the troops withdrawn. Then 2021, we celebrated 50 years of independence of Bangladesh. So we had troops involved in so many activities, cycle safari, chal rahi hai, some function is going on, so forth. So a very important factor for dilution of surveillance on the borders is very prolonged thinning out of the troops from borders. So that is what the government has to look into. That, see, the group of ministers report after the Kargil war had said one task, one force. So CRPF is the internal security force of the country, and others are border guarding forces. So I can agree that CRPF with its strength may not be able to fulfill all the requirements of the government. There's so many problems in the country, internal security, elections, suddenly a law and order problem crops up and so on and so forth. It will.
Yesterday, they have been additional prices.
It has been sanctioned.
Yes.
So all right. So that's a something to facilitate better internal security. But then those may not be adequate. The state governments have a lot of state armed police force battalions. They also have India Reserve battalions. And I'm sure not all India Reserve battalions are like the Manipur battalions, which give away their weapons. The other India Reserve battalions must be more professional. So the government has to look into the ways of empowering these forces. इनसे काम चल सके. Election is round the year duty, and every time you withdraw, we don't touch Pakistan, the borders with Pakistan, because it is considered sensitive. Pakistan borders is always well fortified, but we give less priority to eastern borders, and every thinning out is done from the eastern borders. So government has to look into this very important aspect and empower the resources available with the states so that the internal security and other duties can be managed better. I can understand some withdrawal of troops for, say, parliamentary elections or legislative assembly elections. But then you withdraw troops for Tripura tribal council elections or panchayat elections in Kashmir and so on and so forth, which should not be done. For those local elections, local bodies should be empowered. Lack of technology leads to an overstressed Jawan. They have to literally work for 14, 16 hours. And the sleep that they get is never 8 hours continuous. 4 घंटे अभी 4 घंटे बाद में. And so that is one reason for lack of work-life balance amongst the troops, and also a major cause of voluntary retirements in the organization. Aggressive criminals, as I've said, are very aggressive, and a lot of casualties occur because of this, and a lot of human rights allegations are leveled against. And this leads to adverse impact on relations with Bangladesh, and therefore we have adopted less lethal strategy. Intelligence gathering, we have our intelligence branch in each battalion. They have to focus on day-to-day intelligence. They are doing it, but then there always are chances of improvement. One thing is to be noted that border guarding forces are designated as the lead intelligence agencies of their respective borders. So Bangladesh and Pakistan borders, BSF is the lead agency, which means that it coordinates the intelligence effort. Coordinates not in the sense that a regular meeting is carried out where discussions are held about what should be the area of focus for collection of intelligence. So that is what happens. Similarly, for Nepal borders, Bhutan borders, SSB is the drug is a problem, which, as I've said, Mizoram is becoming more prone to counterfeit currency is another problem. Cattle smuggling. Question for thought is whether we should legalize cattle trade. We already have our second largest beef exporters in the world after Brazil. So why not legalize cattle trade? हमारे सामने तो नहीं मार रहे, गाय हमारी माता है. All right, but it can go. It will add to the revenue. It will prevent crop destruction. It will take care of the cattle which is not useful any longer. So anyway, that is something very large. That the decision has to be taken at the topmost level because of the sensitivities involved. But then it is high time that we perhaps give a thought to this. And this is about what happens on the ground. I mean, evolution, jo borders ka hua hai, a few slides on those. We had 47, we had something called Baghe Award. Elgort Baghe was a Swiss judge who in 1949 was deputed to sort out certain problems between India and the East Pakistan. This was in 1949-50. And then there was Nehru-Noon Pact, again resolving certain problems in 1958. Thereafter came this Nehru-Indira Mujib Pact or agreement. It was decided that we'll exchange the enclaves and we would provide a corridor to Nagra Mangrapota, which with 3 Bigha corridor. And and it was also decided that residents of enclaves will be able to choose nationality. And for your information, all the residents of enclaves located within India, Bangladeshi enclaves located within India, chose to remain in India. Whereas few residents of enclaves in Bangladesh chose to come to India. None of the residents in India went to Bangladesh. So, that created problem of settling those people who were coming from Bangladesh. Around 900 people, they came from Bangladeshi enclaves. So ratification was the problem. Therefore, this situation, these disputes could not be settled. And under this joint Bangladesh guidelines for Water Authority 75 was issued. One of the most prominent provision of these guidelines was that 150 yards, there'll be no defense-related infrastructure. We consider fence not to be a defense-related infrastructure, but Pakistan, as well as similar provision, is there on the western borders. But Pakistan and Bangladesh both consider it to be a defense-related structure, hence the problem. So in 2011, 24-hour access was given. Comprehensive border management plan was signed between DGs in 2011. And then, since it was not ratified in 74 Act was not ratified, there was a protocol signed in 2011 between then PM Manmohan Singh and Sheikh Hasina. And this was finally ratified and implemented in 2015 as the India-Bangladesh Land Boundary Agreement. So the borders, Bangladeshis have a grouse. Why have you created fence? Taslima Nasreen has a very typical statement on this. You have kind of created a sore wound on my heart or something. I'm not able to exactly recall those words, but there is a lot of resentment in Bangladesh and of course, in the border population about the fence, because they see, after all, Indian state has to look after the population. What are we for? What are the border guarding forces there for? What are the civil administration there for? We are, our role says, task and role says, first task is to create a sense of security amongst the resident of border population or words to that effect. Whereas the border control measures adopted are all security centric. This provision provides for human centric approach, whereas what we have adopted is totally restrictive approach. So that, and since it is very restrictive, and there was a lot of problems initially. Ab to khair infrastructure banne laga hai, but initially we would request for a border track. It won't be agreed because it has to go for clearance to the Ministry of Defense, and Ministry of Defense had an idea that if we create infrastructure in the border areas, it will be exploited by, especially on the western borders, by Pakistan and northern borders. So that was the view. But of course, this wasn't the situation along Bangladesh, but then we didn't focus on those areas. So the approach has to change from restrictive approach towards a facilitating approach. And we have to also go ahead and involve the agencies of the neighboring country, and we are moving in that direction. See, till 71, there was no barrier. It is said that till 1956 or so, Indian people residing in India would go to East Pakistan, पूरा दिन नौकरी करके वापस हिंदुस्तान में आके they are working there. There was no restriction. Till 71 they could cross. Till even after 71, till the time fence came in late 90s, early 2000. The crossing was easy. People could come and go. 71 created barriers. Sorry, fence created barriers, and we created barriers, but we didn't improve their living conditions. We didn't create infrastructure. Fence and the border track along it created some avenues for employment for time being, but no major infrastructure has come. We haven't carried out any skill development programs in those areas, which the BADP program, Border Area Development Program, initiated sometime in early 90s, and now more funds are coming, is now looking after. And then besides that, a lot of civic action programs are carried out within the funds allotted to border guarding forces. Skill development, उनको बुला के motor driving training दे दी और computer training दे दिया, और we coach them to get selected for FOJ or BSF or something. So career counseling. So what is necessary is to integrate the border population into the mainstream. They have to be told that the government is for you. The government is not there only to create restrictions. पिछली slide में वो था कि borders can be created as a barriers or bridges. So probably these are certain actions that can be taken to convert these borders from barriers into bridges. Thank you.